This is the big story coming in right now. What happens to India-Canada relations here on? Sacking a senior Indian diplomat on accusations. Remember, no evidence has been provided by Canada, but accuses India that it could be involved in the killing of a pro-Khalistani separatist leader. I'm joined by some special guests right now in the panel. Let's go across to them. Shinder, Purewal, a political science professor at the Kwantlen Polytechnic University in Vancouver. Also, former diplomat Deepak Vora is joining me in this live telecast. Also, Anil Trigunyat, former diplomat, over their expertise on what happens here on. Let's go across first to Canada because, Shinder, Purewal, what do you think? This is such a big step that Canada has taken, sacking a diplomat on allegations, on belief.
I think it was shocking news to all of us that the Prime Minister of this nation, not just an ordinary person,
correct,
we would say that they have a credible evidence. If you have credible evidence, the killing is still at investigation stage. You should give it to the police, and that will help them to bring the case to the court. And that kind of evidence can be used. It's only the judgment of the judge. Judiciary will make sure who's the guilty and who's not guilty. This is quite a surprising act of our Prime Minister.
That's a very important point that you're making. It's come as a shocker, and it will remains to be seen what India will respond on that. Let's go across. I request you to please stay on with me, sir. Let's go across to Deepak Vora, former diplomat, joining me. Mr. Vora, what should one make of this? Because we are waiting a reaction from India, but as you have also been a part of diplomacy, you've been a part of how two countries have their relationship. Even if there were allegations, it could have been conveyed through appropriate channels. Sacking a diplomat, threatening to snap ties, this is clearly perhaps rather than take action against Khalistani extremists, taking action against India.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Always a pleasure to be with you on your channel, to listen to you, to learn from you and from your other colleagues who are on the panel. I've just returned from the United States. You can see it's fall, and I went to Purewal in Kerala, hence my hair has been surrendered to the Lord. Ma'am, Canada is a funny country, and this just out fellow is forgive me, he's a buffoon, this character. I know him, I've met him. Absolutely empty in the brain. Now, what really happened was, ma'am, that Canada, let me go back a little bit in history for all those who are present here.
Yes.
You've heard of the group of 7 rich nations. The first meeting at the summit level was held in France. I was posted there in 1975. Canada was not invited. Then this fellow's father, Pierre Trudeau, begged and cried and sobbed. And finally, the Americans said, look, we need someone to carry our briefcase. Why don't you let my chamcha in? So then Canada was included, although they have no right to be there. That's the first thing. It's a big country in search of relevance. Nobody cares about Canada. You know what happened to him in Delhi. Prime Minister gave him a proper briefing on Khalistani activities in Canada with evidence. And then this guy, seeing that he was cornered, decided to retaliate. He canceled the trade mission that was supposed to come here to discuss free trade. It doesn't hurt us, it hurts Canada. He is a prime example, ma'am. One of my teachers in America was a lady called Barbara Tuchman. She's written this seminal book in 1984 called The March of Folly, How Governments Act Against Their Own Interests. He would be the latest chapter, totally against Canada's interests. He doesn't have a friend. I'm special advisor. 3 countries in Africa, they don't like Canada at all because Canada has nothing to offer except for its arrogance. So this is the first thing. Declaring a senior diplomat, I don't know if they're threatened to interrupt diplomatic relations. I just heard you mention that.
Yes.
I was not aware of it. But if there is a question of expelling one of our senior officers, this is called declaring him persona non grata, an undesirable person, unwelcome person, indulging in activities not commensurate with his diplomatic status. I've been through this myself in my own case. But what happens is then we will take reciprocal action, we'll retaliate, and we'll probably ask some Canadians.
That's right. So we're waiting for a reaction on that. I appreciate your comments. Just stay on with me, sir, because a former diplomat, Anil Trigunyat, is also joining me. Diplomat, you tell me, because when we talk of 2 nations here, and India has been for years now expressing concern about anti-India activities, about Khalistan activities on Canadian soil, expecting some action. Instead, the action that Canada takes is why its Prime Minister announcing credible allegations and sack the diplomat? What happens here?
Pooja, as you are aware, that Canada, unfortunately, has become the harbor of terrorists and extremists for a very long time now.
Sadly, yes.
And India has all the time raised these issues since the days of Kanishka, where I lost some of my friends also in that crash. And I know that this has been, and the way they have lagged on with this, they have done nothing about it, just catered to and pandered to the local constituency of Sikhs, and just not caring about India's interest all along. His father didn't allow this Balwinder Parmar, that fellow we wanted. He refused to extradite on a very funny
Yes.
excuse. And then when Justin Trudeau last time came to India, we provided him all the hospitality, and he brings the extremist Sikhs along with him in his delegation. And the kind of behavior he does, and I fully agree with Ambassador Deepak Vohra on this, that what kind of a leader he is. And this time also, Prime Minister made it a very clear, in the strongest possible terms. You see, the Khalistanis there are marking our ambassador, high commissioner there, and the senior diplomats, saying that they kill. I mean, he should be the one who should be killing these terrorists himself and taking action against it, being a responsible country. But it has clearly shown, and there are reports. We have them, and everybody knows about it, that the Canadian Sikh extremists who are operating under the patronage of the government there are having direct connection with the Pakistani ISI and
That's
others. So
true.
they are trying to create problems in India. He allows these kind of Sikh referendum under the name of fake democracy, or whatever it is they call it. I mean, but I think that this is going to hurt them. You know, when in India we used to have this very famous story of Bhasmasur, and they are going to suffer from this terrorism themselves, like Pakistan is doing now.
I can only imagine the boost that the Khalistan extremists must be getting right now when the Prime Minister, rather than crack down on those activities, actually calls India as the one behind the killing and decides to even sack one of the senior diplomats on bizarre charges.